Usual. Today we have a really great topic. I know that it's been on people's wish list for quite a while. We're talking about understanding Google's algorithm. I mean, Google just drives everything. So this is super important stuff. And I'm really looking forward to delving into this topic. So we've got Venessa Minkley from 369 Collective with us today. And she's a returning guest and super knowledgeable in this area. So I'm looking forward to what she has to offer us digital boosters so we can up our Google game. Now we are streaming on a number of platforms. So if you're tuning in from one of the other platforms, but you have a question for Venessa, make sure you drop it in the comment section or the Q&A or the chat. Depending on what platform you are, you have the capability to participate, and we love that. So make sure you do that. Three reminders. The site is available in Tereo if that is your first language and you prefer to view the site in that way. You can now do that. There are also a number of other languages that you can choose for the how-to videos, including like Samoan and Tongan and I think we've got Hindi and Mandarin, so take advantage of that. Two, we have the Digital Boost Live app is live, so you can get it on Google Play Store or in Apple Store, and that also features podcasts, so you can take your digital learning on the go with you, have it in the palm of your hand. Really cool. And third little announcement is Boost My Office is running. This comp will run till the 11th of October. You could win a MacBook Pro, a wrap screen, like a Samsung screen that curves. It's like a gaming screen. You win a desk, and you can win a package from Zero, and it all kind of totals about $4,000. Enter on the site. So just click into Digital Boost and register yourself to win. Get yourself a new office. Who doesn't need one? We all do. So without further ado, thanks, Venessa, for joining us today. We're really grateful that you had time to join us and talk about this very hot topic.
Good to go?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's share my screen.
Yeah, fantastic. Oh, we didn't check that, did we? We were just gabbing away.
That's okay.
Oh, are you using Canva?
I am.
You know what? That's so cool. I saw that they've got that feature now, and you can make just beautiful presentations now with that.
You really can, absolutely. I mean, Canva is really great for a small business, even at the even on the unpaid non-pro version. It's never gonna to take the place of actual graphic design because it's not really print quality. But for this kind of thing, it's perfect. For social media, perfect, easy. Yeah. You can even go in and create a brand kit, so you can put your branding, your colors, your fonts, and all kinds of things. Yeah,
it's really cool like that. Okay, I'm gonna let you drive, and I'm gonna make sure everything's working in the background.
All right, cool. So I've kept it really simple today because this is a very complex topic, and I could probably talk about it for a whole day. But we don't know all the complexity. There's hundreds of thousands of different things that go on in Google, over 800 updates and several core updates that happen. So it's important that you know these updates, and I make sure that I know them so that I can, help you guys adjust your websites and things accordingly, because sometimes a core change can make a very big difference to your rankings and search results. So I'm just going to go over the things that we do know, and just a brief bit about us. We're a collective of trusted entrepreneurs, and we know what it's like to own a small business and run a small business and the challenges, and we all offer a 30-minute consultation. So if you look at these figures here, it's staggering. That's what you're competing with out there. You're competing with I'm not going to read all these numbers, but the most important thing to remember is that Google is responsible for 94% of all search results in New Zealand. So Google is the search engine that you need to appeal to the most. 92% worldwide. It's never been closer. The 2% is New Zealand. And since COVID, it's skyrocketed. The amount of particularly women in business has grown phenomenally. So as I mentioned, Google's algorithm can cause you a few headaches as a marketer, and most small businesses are generally doing their own marketing. So it's important to keep up to date. And I have resources at the end where you can go and you can read in more detail about Google. But there are things that we do know, and there are things we can affect, things we can affect. That's just another slide. So SEO on its own is a presentation in itself. SEO is very important, but it's also important to remember that SEO is a long game. You're not going to see results in the first month, the second month, the third month, maybe the fourth month. And not all SEO is created equal. But SEO, if you want to know more about this, you can get in touch with me afterwards. This affects your search results very heavily. And if you have a website on, for instance, Shopify or Wix, you have a limited ability to affect your off-page SEO. But without on-page SEO, off-page is a waste of your money. So you must make sure that your on-page is done. And this is something you can actually do yourself. And I can explain this in more detail at another time, because it's pretty complex. But also ensure that if you get anyone to do your SEO, make sure that they are a specialist in that area. It does take a special skill and a special knowledge. And a lot of what happens in SEO is things you actually can't see, but Google can see, because Google reads data. Google doesn't look, Google's not impressed by pretty images or pretty websites. It's looking for data, it's looking for fresh content. So a sitemap is critical. A sitemap is kind of like a restaurant's menu, right? It's like, it tells Google what pages are, what page one is about, what about us is about, what contact us is about. But without a sitemap, Google has a very difficult time navigating your website. So it's very important that even if you have built the website yourself, that you do have a sitemap, because Google's algorithm is geared to actually look for it. And it's also important to know, I haven't put a slide on this, but Google's algorithm is not geared up for social media. The only time a social media link will come up is if people actually type the name of the business. But if you just put in keywords in, your social media is not going to come up, because that's not how the algorithm is geared. So page speed. Page speed is always been a critical factor. Back in 2010, Google announced that they were unhappy with the quality of websites out there, because it was giving their customers a poor customer experience in terms of load speed, in terms of quality of images, in terms of just the general quality of the actual websites. And Google's main objective is to provide the customers with a great experience. In other words, they want their customers to be able to find what they're looking for in the quickest amount of time with the most accurate results. So this is where your hosting is really important. If you can't affect your hosting, then it's a little bit limiting, but it's important to compare hosting, and price is quite a determining factor. Price is, if you're paying $199 or $499 a month, you're not going to have great quality hosting. So there's different kinds of hosting. There's hosting that's like a fiber connection for your website, and then there's hosting that's like you're sharing one Wi-Fi connection. So you also need to look at the size of your images, and there's loads of other factors. You can Google page speed insights, and you can actually go in there, put your full URL in, HTTPS and the rest, and Google will tell you where you rank. You want to be ranking in the green area, so 90 to 100. That's gonna what that means is this is a Google test, so they're not trying to sell you anything, and it's the only really reliable one to use, because they just telling you exactly what they think of the website and what kind of authority it has. The higher the authority, based on the various factors I'm going to talk about today, the more better they're going to rank you. The things they don't like, so the poor page, if you've got a slow website, they will automatically penalize your website. Content relevance. So it's very important that you, I've spoken to a lot of small businesses and sort of said to them, have they identified their keywords, 6 to 10 keywords that they want to be ranked with. There's always going to be keywords that are competitive, but there's also important to have keywords that are more specific to your business. A copywriter here is key, particularly a copywriter that knows how to write SEO content. Back in the day, we could keyword stuff, but now Google will actually penalize you. And if you do enough wrong things with Google, Google will go stick you on page 100 and it'll leave you there forever. So it is very important to read more in depth, following this presentation, to read more in depth on, and I will share the links later on. But a good copywriter, honestly, it's worth its weight in gold. It really is. Even for myself and my own website, which is not quite launched yet because I've rebranded. We have difficulty, human beings have difficulty in writing about ourselves or bragging or whatever you want to call it. So it's important that you have at least 6 to 10 keywords, and you need to make sure that it's placed strategically in your website, but not stuffed into one. And particularly the homepage. The homepage should be as clean, simple as possible. People are going to land on there and you want them to immediately know exactly what you do within 3 to 5 seconds, because that's how they will form their opinion. If that homepage is confusing, it's got too much things going on, it's got banners that are moving all the time, people are going to leave because they're going to be overwhelmed and they don't know exactly what you do, and they're just going to leave. So a big key is to come up with 6 to 10 keywords, and then get somebody to help you with a bit of research, or you can do the research on your own. I got a question here. Okay, so I went on to Google page speed.
Yeah, we do have a question. I just wasn't sure if you wanted to do that now. I'm still getting LinkedIn all sorted. If you want to,
no, that's all cool.
Keep going, and I'll just finish getting that. Yeah, set up.
I only got a 4, so that's a 4 out of 100, right? So that basically means you're basically invisible to Google. So and that could be so many factors. Like in order for me to give you an accurate answer to that, that's really bad. So, but it's the cool thing with Google is that you can fix it, right? And there's some simple things you can do to fix it. We can look at your speed, we can look at your copy, we can look, and it also depends on how new is your website. If it's only a month old, it's gonna have a 4. It's just that's how it is. Because Google hasn't had the opportunity to trawl your website, and if you haven't submitted it to Google for indexing, then you are going to get a score like 4. But the good thing with Google is you can redeem yourself. You go, oh, okay, so I've got a 4. Okay, so look at the areas that there'll be different things there. There'll be something 12 years old. Wow. Okay. Well. Yeah, that doesn't sound right. So if I'm quite high on Google search rankings. Yeah, it's interesting. It depends on honestly, it does. It depends on the business. It depends on how popular the products or services are. It depends on whether people are searching you. Squarespace. Yeah, okay.
I will read those questions out loud, because otherwise people won't know what you're kind of talking about because they can't see it. So okay. Yeah, just let that sit there for a second. Just let me get everything set up in the back so that our folks tuning in on other platforms can also participate. So if you just carry on for a second, I'm almost finished, and then we can kind of address her question or their question.
Okay. Yeah, so I can't emphasize enough how important content relevance is. It's got to be relevant to your business, it's got to be relevant to your products. You've got to make sure that you're, if you are selling products, for instance, that another wholesaler sells, it's important that you don't copy their descriptions exactly, because Google considers that plagiarism, right? And will actually punish you in the rankings. A lot of the things like hosting and that you can't affect if you do have a website like Squarespace or Shopify or that, because that's all included, and you just kind of renting space on that platform. But I will get to the questions once Anna Marie's finished doing her bit.
Yeah. Okay. I am ready. Sorry about that. We do have 4 platforms that we run through these, so it does take a minute for everything to get set up. So the question here was, and you kind of you answered most of it, but it's good for everybody to hear it. I went on to Google Page Speed Insights. We've talked about this on a previous webinar, and I will supply you with the link in the chat shortly. And I only got a 4, but my page does load fast and my pictures don't seem too big. I asked a friend who said I was told that since I have a Squarespace page, I can't do a lot, but that my website isn't so bad. Is this true? The website's 12 years old, and they're quite high on a Google search ranking. But they said it was because it's on a Squarespace, which they've only been on for 2 years. So there's the key right there. So they've switched platforms. So obviously.
Yeah. So the worst thing you can do is jump platforms, okay? Because if it's not done the correct way, and it's very difficult to do if you go, for instance, from WordPress to Squarespace or any of the ones that are sort of a multi-platform. In other words, you rent space on that platform, you lose all of your SEO. It's all your SEO gains. You start from scratch, and it doesn't matter if your business is 12 years old. It makes absolutely no difference. The only way to carry your SEO gains across, and I mean, the business is 12 years old, so I mean, it's probably fairly well-known business anyway. So it's probably gonna still be okay in the rankings. But yes, she is correct in saying that by jumping platforms, and I see this all the time. People go, they, for instance, have a Shopify, and then they go, oh, it's not working for me. And then they jump to Wix, and Wix is even worse than Shopify. And then they go, oh, this is not working for me. And then they jump to Squarespace. And a lot of these are what I call, they're not even sideways moves. They like downward moves, Yeah. You basically you go, great, I had this presence, boom, my presence is gone, right? Yeah. And that's the key. Don't jump platforms. Just try to optimize the platform you have. And try to have a platform that is that you can affect the outcome the most. In other words, you've got the most control. You've got control on your hosting. Because otherwise you're just limited to what the platform offers, right?
Yeah, I mean, like those platforms, I believe you told me, like Squarespace and things like that. Like you are limited in some ways because they're designed so that anybody can kind of walk on and build it. You don't have as much control if I guess you can't write code, because I think you can do some things on some of those platforms if you know how to write a bit of code. But if you're like me, you don't know how to write any code. Yeah. But there are some limitations on those versus WordPress or something where you have a lot more control.
I guess the key there, Anna Marie, is that you can even on Shopify, you can code, but you're really only coding the template. You're not actually coding the source code. And I've often described this to people, if you look at an iceberg, the 1/10 above the water is beautiful, but what's holding it up? 9/10, that's the juicy stuff that Google's looking for, data. Google's looking for data. Google doesn't care if you've got amazing photography and, as long as you name your images right, Google will have an understanding of what that image might be from an accessibility point of view. If any of you have run this test, feel free to share the information with me, and I can drill it down for you, and then discuss some quick wins that you can implement.
Oh, that's so kind.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind. So
there's actually a couple of questions here. Maybe we'll hit those and then we'll keep going. So one of the questions says, I also have a very slow website according to website speed hosted on Squarespace. Squarespace recommends not hosting externally. What do you recommend?
I recommend hosting externally.
Yeah. And then it says, would it speed up hosting externally? So yes, you're saying that. And if you change to hosting Squarespace externally, would you lose your SEO?
No.
gains. You don't lose your SEO, but we call it's like Google juice.
No, so changing hosts does not affect anything except the quality, your security, and the quality of the speed of your website. So, and yeah, not all hosts are created equal. So it's important to make sure you have the right host. You know, they need to provide great support. They need to provide great security. There's a number of factors that honestly, the list is this long, but absolutely. The reason they would discourage you is because well, I'm guessing. I have tried a lot of these platforms, but it's due to the fee that you would pay them. You know, the annual fee, monthly fee, or whatever. But definitely externally, 100%.
I think, and I want to do this one last question because I think like there's been a misconstrue. So it says, so are you saying Squarespace isn't a good platform? I changed to it 2 years ago also, but that's not what Vanessa's saying. What she's saying is, you know, every platform has different pluses and minuses, and optimize what you have. Yeah.
Squarespace is known for being quite slow. And it's also, honestly, you can just Google these things. You can just go disadvantages of Squarespace. But the biggest mistake anybody can ever make is to keep jumping platforms. I see small businesses do it all the time. And you know what? You're starting from scratch. You've got a visibility, you're invisible. You've got visibility, you're invisible. You've got visibility, you're invisible. So that's what keeps happening. A good web developer, you know, it can actually take your SEO gains and carry it over to a new website, right? But they're very difficult to do on these SaaS platforms, you know, where they, so you've got one big platform and you all sit underneath it and you all kind of share the same source code, where when you have a standalone website, you can affect everything. You can affect your source code, you can affect your hosting. And a lot of the SEO juice, or Google juice, what you want to call it, it's you can't see it, you know, but Google can. Google can see it. And if you keep remembering 94%, 94%, 94%, then, you know, you will, like I said, at the end, I've got some resources and anybody's welcome to, you know, do a free website audit and talk you through it. I'm not saying that Squarespace is bad, but is it limiting? Yes. All the shared platforms are limited. That's just how it is.
Cool. Great. Let's hold on that follow-up and keep going, because otherwise we'll just get lost and we will not get through your content.
That's all right. So site design is also important. So one of the key factors for Google is the user interface and the user experience, so UX and UI. So this is where pre-planning your website is key. You need to have a visual representation of how this website's going to look before you actually go in and start building it. And it's best to do this offline. It's basically called a wireframe. So this is very important. If Google determines that your website has a poor user interface or a poor user experience, it'll penalize you in rankings. It'll automatically push you down, and it will favor websites with a great user experience, great user interface. These are things that you can change yourself, but it is a bit of a specialist field, because unless you know exactly what's going on with Google and the complexities of their search results, which honestly is like there's 800 changes per year plus, and with each, for instance, UX, there'll be about 1,000 different variables for UX. For UI, there'll be about 1,000. So it's really a complex thing. But the good news is that, you know, you can change a few little things by having things set up like Google Analytics. Make sure that you've got that so you can see where the friction points are and the bounce rate. If you have a high bounce rate, Google will push you down in rankings. Google knows it, because if you've got Google Analytics connected, Google actually monitors what's going on your website. So that's a really, really important factor. Is there a question?
Yep, there's a follow-up question that just said, changing platforms but keeping the same web address doesn't help, ?
No, it doesn't help.
Okay, thank you. That's it. That was the only question hanging.
A domain is a domain is a domain is a domain. You know, the more relevant you make your domain in terms of what it is your business does. So a lot of people will use their names, for instance, if they're coaching, and that's great if you want to do personal branding. But you know, when people, I mean, you would know, Anne-Marie, when you search something on Google, you see what pops up. Always there's sponsored stuff. I never look at that. But whatever domain is more close to what you're looking for, that's what you're going to click on, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like sometimes people's websites are pretty out there and it doesn't relate to what they're actually doing. And even though some titles are quite boring, like I found it really interesting. We used to know like a yoga studio, and it was just the name of, like, it was the type of yoga and the town name, and that was the name of the business, you know, and it said yoga in it, and it was like, it was top on the results because it just, like, people searched yoga Newcastle or yoga, you know, and so it would always pop up because it's just in the title of the business, and the web address URL was that, you know. Super interesting.
So the other key thing also is if you're only servicing or selling product in New Zealand, don't have a .com, okay? Because New Zealand results will always favor .co.nz or at least .nz. So when you're buying a domain and you really want to make sure that no one else gets your domain name, I always recommend buy all three. They cost $28.50 a year each. You can go to First Domains, they're great. It doesn't really matter where you buy your domain from, honestly. A domain is a domain is a domain. But I always recommend buy the .co.nz, buy the .nz, and buy the .com. Face Google with .co.nz and redirect the other two. So you only ever pay one hosting, but you're redirecting the other two. That means
that's so smart.
Sorry?
That's so smart. I said, and the question here is, what about .kiwi address?
No. These are gimmicky ways of hosting companies to sell more domains. You know, they don't help. Honestly, .co.nz, face with .co.nz. If you're selling internationally, .co.nz is great too. Everyone loves New Zealand, you know. So a .com was always, it means commercial, right? That's what .com means. People think .com means international. It doesn't. Not according to Google anyway. So if you're selling worldwide, .co.nz is still your best friend, honestly. So, you know, if you've got a .com now, have a look if you can get the .co.nz or at least the .nz. Because people often go, I don't know, Kawakawa NZ, or they go, whatever you're looking for, you know, they often put NZ. And so the .co.nzs are going to come up first. If you search Auckland, if you search Wellington, you search Christchurch, all the .co.nzs are going to come up first because it's the most obvious for Google, right? I'm going to show you, you're in New Zealand and you're looking for, you know, something in New Zealand. I'm going to show you New Zealand. So they're always going to rank higher. But of course, you have to have all these other factors right as well. So, but yeah, this is something we can talk you through. But if you don't have Google Analytics, I recommend you connect that because it will help you see where the friction points are. In other words, where people are backing out and where the bounce rates are. And then you can, once you've identified where the friction points is, you can go in and you can fix that.
And there's just a question here. It says, if I create my website through Shopify, do I still need a good copywriter to do the content?
I highly recommend a copywriter. Honestly, it makes all the difference to SEO. Unless you're a very talented writer yourself. I guess you just got to ask yourself, are you confident writing your own blogs? Are you confident writing an ebook? Are you confident writing a press release? If you're confident doing all those things, yeah, write your own copy. It's you know, or write the copy and then have a copywriter. If you don't have budget for copywriter, that's perfectly understandable. I get it. But write your copy and then have a copywriter review it. That'll cost you less, but definitely have a very experienced copywriter because there's a lot of copywriters out there at the moment, unfortunately, that they can't do a better job than you can anyway. Yeah. So
And we
I
had
think
somebody say, you know, do you have a recommendation for a copywriter? I know a couple. I'll drop them in the chat. One we've had on a couple of times, Amanda Livingston from Quickbound Fox. She's quite genius. And if you are interested in learning about copywriting and getting some tips on copywriting, check out some of the Q&As that we've done on copywriting, because I know it is a big issue. It may not solve your problem, but it'll at least give you some insight about how you go about writing. Because what Amanda said in her chat, it's actually 75% strategy and 25% writing itself, which was a really interesting thing.
100%.
I didn't think that. So have a look at her sessions we did with Brown Fox, Amanda Livingston, and yeah, I'll drop her website in the chat for you guys.
Yeah, her work is very good. So, but I can also recommend, you know, people that have worked on my own copy as well as other clients' copy as well. It is very, very important, but you know, it often comes down to budget. But there are ways and means. I mean, you know, there's interest-free finance, there's 6-month payment holidays, there's all kinds of things available that we've made available that we work really hard to get, because like it's through Q MasterCard, so that's typically for, like, you know, something tangible, but we've managed to get it for small businesses so that they can benefit in the first 6 months.
Yeah, you know a lot of these strategies to get funding for things. It's really cool. And I'm sure Venessa would be happy to share those things with you. Question here, how do you work out why you have a high bounce rate on a page?
Well, I have to ask, do you have Google Analytics connected? Because that'll give you most of your answers.
Okay.
And also running the speed test and a few other tests that I can run for you that are a little bit more complex and require paid software. I can definitely help with that, but it's quite a general question. It could be 100 things.
Yeah.
It could be the quality. It could be the quality of your images. It could be the way your website navigates. It could be there's something glitchy, or it could be the payment process isn't quite smooth enough. Honestly, the more simple and easy you make it for people, the better, because then they can get what they need to do done quickly and get the information they need and leave. And you know, they've done what they needed to do. Make sure that your contact information is right at the top of the website. You know, people don't want to go to search in the footers anymore. People have become really impatient because we live in a very disposable industry, right? Where you can get things really quickly. We're back in the day, well, you know, we got the encyclopedia out and things like that. So site design, and the bigger key that I could, even if you've already built your website, it doesn't mean you can't go back to pre-planning the website and look at the user experience, look at the user interface. There is a gazillion pages on it out there on the internet.
Cool. But you're a legend, Venessa.
Thank you. Link quality. So this is a big one. So backlinks. So for instance, you're in the health industry, right? And you work with, I don't know, different mental health. Say you work with give me an example. You work with different associations. In other words, you provide services to their clients, or you use some of their resources, or you share their blogs, or things like that. It's very important, and I can actually run a test to see if you've got any bad quality links or any broken links, because those, if you do have those, Google will push you down in rankings because they consider your website to be of a low authority. Low authority means they don't think very much of it. And because Google's not a human, they don't feel sorry for you or any of that kind of carry on. So it's important to have high authority links, and that is another website linking to you, and that you linking to another website, because you basically then bounce off their authority. So if they've already got, say, the Heart Foundation, or say any of these websites that already have a high authority, if you link to them, or vice versa, that is you're basically going to be sort of piggybacking on their SEO, on their SEO gains, on their search engine optimization, all of those things. So backlinks is backlinks and links from your website, and backlinks is links from other websites to yours. So whether it's sharing your blogs or so make friends with the other websites. And the easy way to do this is to put yourself in every free business directory that exists, right? That's what people that provide poor SEO do. That's all they do, right? Because it's not enough when it comes to SEO. But basically spend 5 minutes a day and just go and paste your full URL and all your make sure you use all your keywords and put it in every single free business directory you can find. Put it in Compass NZ, just put it everywhere. Put it on Neighborly, put it on Trade Me, anywhere, wherever you can put it. The more places that your business is, your URL is, the better your ranking and the better Google can find you. It's when someone searches for your kind of product or service. So yeah, 5 minutes a day, just go put your website everywhere, put it everywhere, and make sure you carry on those keywords. It's but yeah, don't put it if the website is shoddy, like it doesn't look good, don't put it there, right? But if it looks okay and it forms okay, you put your website there. But the links that you put on your website, you must make sure that they are of a high authority. And it could be an association. It could be a bunch of things, but I'm actually going over this next month. This is quite a complex subject, but I'm happy to talk to anybody about it.
Yeah, I'll just let you guys know on 8th of November, Vanessa's going to do what are backlinks and why are they so important. So if you want to tune in for another session with Vanessa, then that is your date. Book it in, 8th of November.
So mobile friendly, this is a huge one. Worldwide, it's 54.8% of all global traffic, and it's consistently hovered around the 50% mark. In New Zealand, it's actually higher. It's I think it's around 66% now of all web searches and purchases are now done on mobile. And you've got to think of it this way: with COVID lockdowns, there's only so many desktops in a house, right? So what is the rest of the family on? That my daughter's got a part-time job, and so what does she do? She buys clothing, all kinds of things. And what does she use? She uses her phone. So if the website is not mobile friendly, and the Google one it's not that accurate, right? There is a Google one where you can type in whether the website's mobile friendly, but it's actually better to do this manually. In other words, for me to actually go on my phone and then put it through other simulators. In other words, what does it look like on an iPhone? What does it look like on all different types of phones? Because the mobile friendliness is something that you need to do from the very beginning. So you've got to consider mobile friendliness from the very start of the website. It's not something you do at the end. It's something you consider the whole way through. Because all of you must have gone on a website before where like the image is off the screen or the banner is, or you can't access a certain part of the menu. So this is really important. People will just leave instantly. If they can't work it on their phone, they won't even try to put the phone in landscape. They'll just leave because there's so much choice out there, and that's excluding tablets. So that percentage is a whole lot higher. So it's very important that your website is mobile friendly, and test your website. Ask your friends to test. Everyone's got generally different phones, either Android or iPhone. Get your friends to bring up your website, take screenshots, test the menu, pretend to buy something. That's the best way of knowing what kind of experience that your customer is potentially going to have on your website. And WordPress is a great platform, but if it's done wrong, it won't be mobile friendly. It doesn't matter what platform. So the Shopify's and the Wix, they kind of take care of that a little bit for you. But so it's really important. So if you include tablets, I would say that the percentage is close to 70%, because that's just how it is. SSL. Now SSL is not expensive, right? It's actually really cheap, and it's included in a lot of hosting. Most hostings. If you don't have SSL security or good quality SSL security, and not all SSL is created equal either, Google will actually put an exclamation mark next to your URL, and if people click on that, it will warn them not to proceed. So a good SSL protects your data. It affirms your identity. It's better for search rankings. So Google will actually ignore websites that don't have SSL. And if you persist with not having SSL, Google will actually turn that exclamation warning sign, it will turn it red. And Google has warned publicly that they will eventually remove you from Google altogether. So for the sake of, I think about $100 a year for good SSL, it's well worth doing. It also helps you satisfy payment requirements. So particularly if you're e-commerce business, this protects your data. So what it does is it encrypts the data from the web to your website and protects your customers' credit card details, home address, all that kind of thing. And it also improves customer trust because of, if people, there's enough scams out there without having a big question mark, a big exclamation mark next to your website. So user engagement. So this is where bounce rates come in and also return visitors. Google can see this, right? Google can see if your website's being visited often, how long people are staying there, how long people are engaging. And you can also see this if you have Google Analytics connected. Google Analytics is not the only one. There is some alternatives that offer a higher, what's the word? Better privacy, because by having Google Analytics, you are sharing everything that's going on your website with Google, and so Google can use that data for various things. They can't copy data, they can't take data, they can't do any of that, but they can see the behavior and so the better the behavior on your website, the better you're going to rank. That's just how it is. Google's main objective, like I said earlier, is to ensure that the searcher or customer gets fast, accurate, high-quality results. In other words, the searcher finds what they're looking for quickly. And you can look at your competitors for this. You don't have to sort of do this from scratch. Can you hear this, Anna Marie?
Every day, billions of people come here with questions about all kinds of things. Sometimes we even get questions about Google search itself, like how this whole thing actually works. And while this is a subject entire books have been written about, there's a good chance you're in the market for something a little more concise. So let's say it's getting close to dinner and you want a recipe for lasagna. You've probably seen this before, but let's go a little deeper. Since the beginning, back when the homepage looked like this, Google has been continuously mapping the web, hundreds of billions of pages, to create something called an index. Think of it as the giant library we look through whenever you do a search for lasagna or anything else. Now, the word lasagna shows up a lot on the web. Pages about the history of lasagna, articles by scientists whose last name happened to be lasagna, stuff other people might be looking for. But if you're hungry, randomly clicking through millions of links is no fun. This is where Google's ranking algorithms come into play. First, they try to understand what you're looking for, so they can be helpful even if you don't know exactly the right words to use or if your spelling is a little off. Then they sift through millions of possible matches in the index and automatically assemble a page to try to put the most relevant information up top for you to choose from. Okay, now we have some results. But how did the algorithms actually decide what made it onto the first page? There are hundreds of factors that go into ranking search results, so let's talk about a few of them. You may already know that pages containing the words you search for are more likely to end up at the top. No surprise there. But the location of those words, like in the page's title or in an image's caption, those are factors too. There's a lot more to ranking than just words. Back when Google got started, we looked at how pages link to each other to better understand what pages were about and how important and trustworthy they seemed. State linking is still an important factor. Another factor is location, where a search happens. Because if you happen to be in Ormea, Italy, you might be looking for information about their annual lasagna festival. But if you're in Omaha, Nebraska, you probably aren't. When a web page is uploaded is an important factor too. Pages published more recently often have more accurate information, especially in the case of a rapidly developing news story. Of course, not every site on the web is trying to be helpful. Just Just like with robocalls on your phone or spam in your email, there are a lot of sites that only exist to scam, and every day scammers upload millions more of them. So just because instantvirusdownload.net lists the words lasagna recipe 400 times, that doesn't mean it's going to help you make dinner. We spend a lot of time trying to stay one step ahead of tricks like these, making sure our algorithms can recognize scam sites and flag them before they make it to your search results page. So let's review. Billions of times a day, whenever someone searches for lasagna, or resume writing tips, or how to swaddle a baby, or anything else, Google software locates all the potentially relevant results on the web, removes all the spam, and ranks them based on hundreds of factors like keywords, links, location, and freshness. Okay, good time to take a breath. This last part is about how we make changes to search, and it's important. Since 1998, when Google went online, people seem to have found our results pretty helpful. But the web is always changing, and people are always searching for new things. In fact, 1 in every 7 searches is for something that's never been typed into the search box before, by anyone, ever. So we're always working on updates to search, thousands every year. Which brings up a big question. How do we decide whether a change is making search more helpful? Well, one of the ways we evaluate potential updates to search is by asking people like you. Every day, thousands of search quality raters look at samples of search results side by side, then give feedback about the relevance and reliability of the information. To make sure those evaluations are consistent, the raters follow a list of search quality evaluator guidelines. Think of them as our publicly available guide to what makes a good result good. Oh, and one last thing to remember. We use responses from raters to evaluate changes, but they don't directly impact how search results are ranked. So there you have it. Every time you click search, our algorithms are analyzing the meaning of the words in your search, matching them to the content on the web, understanding what content is most likely to be helpful and reliable, and then automatically putting it all together in a neatly organized page designed to get you the info you need. All in, 0.81 seconds. Wow. Anyone else ready for dinner? Interested in learning more? We've got a whole website dedicated to how search works. Just click right here. Want to read the search quality rater guidelines for yourself? Click right here.
Yeah, so that's just a quick summary of how complex it is. And the reason I showed it is just so that you understand that it is so complex. But there are some key things you can do to affect it. And there was one question, Anna Marie. Do you want to read it out?
Yep. Okay, cool. So it says we have analytics and a high bounce rate due to overseas people going onto our site, but we're a local Auckland service business. How can we stop this from affecting us with Google? Good question.
It's a very good question, but it's also a very complex answer. I don't believe that overseas traffic is great. Any traffic, on a website is great. So I don't. Maybe someone told you that, or it depends. I need to look at the website. I need to run a few tests. I need to, it's not a simple answer. You kind of, and it might be to do with the domain. Is it domain.com? What is the domain? Should you have .co.nz? It depends. Some questions are just not easily answered, Anna Marie. It's just there's too many variables involved. But look,
that's okay. We understand that. We understand that this is not a simple thing.
Honestly, it's a huge subject, and as long as you look, I'll share this presentation with you and with all the links. I've actually got a bunch of. Oh, sorry, my bad. Can you still see that?
Yes.
Sorry, something happened. I'll get to it.
Cool.
So there's a page of resources here where you can go and test your website. There's different resources, also government resources, and there are a few other tests I can also share that. But the reason I don't share some of the tests is because it's paid software, and on a trial you don't actually get all the everything that you need. And also it's difficult not difficult, but you need a particular skill set and knowledge to understand the results, because otherwise, for instance, you put yourself in the speed test and you get 4. I mean, you think, oh, my website's so bad. But honestly, there are things that you can do almost immediately that can improve that ranking. I've had consultations with people I always say to people, get a pen and paper and write down some of the things I say. And they've come back to me at the end of the day and they've already improved their rankings.
Yeah,
cool. So it's not all doom and gloom. Honestly, if your website's not ranking great right now, it's very redeemable. But we've got to make sure that we eliminate things that Google. It's a big no-no for Google. So because once Google establishes you as a poor authority, and you've got poor authority backlinks, you've got poor authority content. Google will keep you down unless you do something quite remarkable. So it's important to, and never copy content from another website. That's like, I know a lot of people do it. Like for instance, I was selling, I don't know, do we all know what Trilogy products are? Cosmetics, for instance. And say for instance, there's a wholesale site and you have a site and you sell that. Even if it's overseas, makes no difference. If you copy that description exactly, Google will punish you in the rankings. It's just that's how it works.
Good lesson, because I know sometimes we just think that's like the easiest way, but yeah, that's really great advice there.
Even if you change it subtly, it doesn't have to. You can just have the words slightly different, your grammar slightly different. It doesn't really matter in the product, the actual product title, that doesn't matter, but the actual product description, that matters. Look, we're offering a free consultation, free website audit or health check. And what that gives you, it gives you a starting point, and it shows you where are the most important areas of the website. So where to start? That takes the guesswork out. People ask questions, well, how come I'm only getting a 4? Or how come I'm getting a high bounce rate? There are reasons. There will be a reason for it. And it's usually a simple thing that can be sorted in a few days, So it's no, don't run the speed test and be sad about it. It's good because now you've got your answers in front of you. So
that's fantastic.
So I recommend it. Have the test run. I deliver the reports to you, and I also provide you with some fixes. In other words, things you can actually do yourself. You don't have to pay a web developer to do. Sometimes it's just not possible, depending on what the issue is. You might need an expert to step in and help you. And it's also not, you can't keep putting band-aids on your website. Google doesn't like that. Oh, that little bit, fix that, and then leave that, and fix that and leave that. Google doesn't like it. So that's basically the presentation. I can take are there any questions?
Well, I think we've kind of been fielding them throughout, so we're really good. We're just getting some positive feedback on some of the other sites, just going, wow, this has been an amazing session, just so packed with information and just some really positive feedback. Honestly, Vanessa, I feel like this week, my mind has been blown. Like we have just been so lucky here at Digital Boost with folks like yourself coming on and just educating us so that we can go out there and make better decisions about our business and grow our business. And this session has been amazing. So you're going to send me this presentation. And
100%.
Perfect. Okay, cool.
All the links will be there. The PDF, I will link up the video I can't embed, but I will put a link to it. It's easily found on Google, but I'll put the HTML link in there so people can just put it and go to it. So it's a very complex subject, but this is the most simple way I can put it to you. And I hope, hopefully this has helped. And part of the reason if we're even doing this in the first place is because there's so much misinformation out on the internet. You need to ignore all that Facebook stuff coming at you, or that Instagram stuff. Just go back to basics. Being found on Google and ranking high and getting your bounce rate, it all comes down to very basic elements. So don't get stressed about it. Don't get overwhelmed about it. These things are easily fixed. Honestly, this is not difficult stuff. It's complex, but it's not difficult to fix. So yeah, I mean, if anyone's got any issues or questions, please get in touch. My website's not quite live yet, so because I've just gone through a rebrand.
I love the new color scheme, by the way. I'm loving
Oh,
it.
you like it?
Yeah, because I know what you had before as well. So I love it. I love that green. Like, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so the other one is
I
sort of
love the new logo. Looks good.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Well, I
cool.
appreciate everyone's time. I hope you've learned something. If you want to delve into different areas like SEO a little bit more or something else, please feel free to get in touch. I've made myself available for the rest of today to answer any of those questions. I've blanked out the rest of the day just to answer any potential questions you might have.
Oh, that's so kind of you. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to your session on November 8th about backlinks. What are backlinks and why they are important? That's going to be an awesome session. And hopefully you'll do some more sessions with us too. We would really love that. So this has been an awesome way to start their day, I reckon. Just lots of thank yous coming through on all the platforms. And I want to say thank you again from Digital Boost. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Ka kite.
Thank you. Take care.
Sorry, my throat just got really dry there at the end. I had to, oh, maybe Venessa dropped off, but I didn't mean to leave so quickly. You're so welcome. I see there's a few folks here who have joined a number of sessions. I want to ask if anybody would be willing, like I see Dean, you've joined a number of sessions. There's a Sarah that comes along quite often. We would love to do a little bit of some improving of user experience of the Digital Boost website. We've got some questions. It'll be not super time consuming that we'd love to ask folks that are using the site so we can make it like even better than it already is, because we know it's awesome, but we also are always wanting to improve our game. So if you are interested in doing that, I think that the chat, it would take maybe like 30-40 minutes where I'd just kind of ask you some questions and that'd be it. I'd love to take advantage of your experience and so that I can pass it on to the team and we can make it better. If you're interested in that, if you could email, drop your email in, I would really appreciate it. So I can, even put my email here in the chat. Oh, thank you so much. That's very kind of you for the positive feedback. You know what? I really appreciate that. It's like, I have a real love for these sessions. That session just blew my mind, by the way. It was so good. And yesterday's session was so good too. So I've just popped okay, cool. That'd be awesome. Thank you so much, Dean. I appreciate it. We really want to keep improving our websites, we need to know what you guys need, what you like, what you don't like. It's like super important to make sure that we're giving you what you came for and making it as easy as possible to move forward. Okay. I appreciate it. I will be in contact via email. And it won't take long, I promise you. And everyone will benefit, which is really cool. Cool. Great. Thanks, y'all. Have a wonderful, I just didn't stop recording.